people always comment when walking by my desk that it looks like I'm doing day trading. So I got, like graphs pulled up, and I'm watching performance over time and making small tweaks. And the more that I heard that, the more that it kind of started to make sense to me in a way. I've never day traded before, but paid search is a lot like it, right? So we buy and sell keywords instead of stocks. But the goal is the same, right? To make as much money as possible. So I'm in there, just like a day trader, checking my portfolios, seeing how my words are doing, seeing what's turning into money, and what's not doing so well, and what we could probably afford to get rid of. That's a typical day for me. I'm involved in other projects as well, and in other capacities. As a member of the performance marketing team, I like to hop in and support wherever I'm needed. Obviously, everything that we do kind of touches on everything else. So we're typically quick to lend a hand when needed as well.
Yeah, I think I may have just offhandedly gave you that nickname of the day trader because from the conference room, I can see your screen.
Yeah.
And I've overheard you and Matt talk about, one of your guys' secrets is that you just really pay close attention to stuff and you can't just let it set and go. So yeah, I think that's where it came from. But I mean, would you agree that there is similarities to that comparison?
As far as I know, I mean, it certainly seems like it. I don't have much of a hand in the stock. Actually, my approach to stock is totally opposite. I take a set it and forget it approach pretty much. Got my money in index funds, and I'm more than happy to just sort of let it ride. But when it comes to paid search, I'd rather be actively managing, because we've experimented with the sort of set it and forget it method, and it never performs better than when we're actively managing it. So either we've got the secret sauce, or the algorithm is just not smart enough yet. Maybe both.
We're waiting for the day there's like an index, like a SEM index fund that you can just jump in, right?
Buy every keyword. That's actually
just generally see how it goes.
I got to be honest. Looking at some of the recommendations that we get from Google, that's kind of what they wanted to do. Is just buy everything, just bid on a little bit of everything, and over time your performance will probably improve. Probably.
Definitely benefits them.
Yeah. But no, I prefer it's fun in a way. I'm a big fan of games, and so thankfully the platform itself is not gamified. You don't get points for doing. Actually, you kind of do. They sort of added in this recommendation score where you get points for doing what Google tells you that they think you should do, but that doesn't motivate me as much as the actual performance, right? The points, the high score is all about trying to get the actual results that clients want, not trying to satisfy the engine itself. So I kind of take that approach to it. I'm a big fan of strategy games, and what is this if not just a big strategy game where the goal is to turn as much of a profit as we can.
So whenever we take over a new client's account, how often are you intimidated by the fact that maybe it's already performing at such a high level that you're not going to be able to make like real gains versus, if you look back, how often was the case where you were able to make significant improvements?
There've been a couple times when I initially got access to an account and looked at it and said, like, wow, this setup is really complex. The results look good. The thing is, just by virtue of having a different set of eyes on it, you're always going to be able to find things that whoever set it up before maybe missed, right? So there's always improvements to be made. That's kind of it. I don't think there's ever been a situation where I've found that I couldn't do something marginally better. There are cases where I step in and go, oof, woof, this is a mess. We're gonna have to start over from scratch. And we tend to see kind of a night and day shift there. But then there are also lots of cases where we step in and say, this is actually pretty good, but we have one or two things to test that could probably make it a little bit better. That's one great thing about it when it's done right, when agencies are when they actually hand off their work and the client owns the work, as they should. Then when the next agency steps in, they should be able to come at it from a fresh perspective and kind of stand on the shoulders of what was there before and do better. So whether we're making, slow and steady marginal progress on something that was already doing great, or whether we take one look at it and go, oof, man, let's try a fresh approach. I don't think there's ever been a time when there hasn't been something we could do to make it better.
It seems like the times where we're saying, oof, we can do a lot better is usually whenever they're kind of either newer into that channel or their budgets are smaller and they just really need that next step up. The times where it's usually put together very well, their spend is much higher. They've worked on that to get to that point. And so even if it is incremental progress that we're making, that incremental progress is worth a whole lot more money for those clients, right? So it tends to work out, I think, whether it's either situation.
Typically, yeah, I think it tends to work out, definitely. But there's also been cases where we step into an account that has really high spend and it's just been poorly spent the whole time, and that's where we can see some of the night and day results where they've got the budget, they've just been they've been buying words that aren't worth as much as what they should be buying. So if we can, a lot of times we go in and we clean it out, we reduce their total spend and increase their results, and hey, wow, look at that efficiency that we've established. So for those clients, the high budget clients, my first concern tends to be where are they wasting money? Where are they spending money on things that aren't working for them? And like, how can we clean that up? It kind of, there's sort of a cycle, whether we're building from scratch or taking something over. We step in, if we're building from scratch, we're going to start by finding what we think is going to work best, and testing it, then optimizing around what we see to create efficiencies, and then taking what we see there to drive new ideas and new tests. Sometimes when we step in, efficiencies come first, so that we step in on the kind of the back end of that cycle and see, wow, they've got a lot of stuff out here. We've got a lot of results from the previous work that's been done. How do we take these results and then find the efficiencies and kind of pare it down? And once we pare it down, then we see what's driving, and we can start to step in and test new things. But it depends on like what part of that cycle that we step in on, whether we're on the scaling side or whether we're on the side of driving efficiency and cutting waste.
Yep. So whenever you joined Native, what was maybe something about yourself that people did not know and they've learned along the way? Like, do you have any like crazy party tricks or odd quirks about yourself that people are just now learning about you?
I feel like people have learned a lot about me. I'm not necessarily, a secretive guy. I'm open about my hobbies. I love games, tabletop games. I think everyone in the office has heard me, go on and on about, hey, we should play Dungeons and Dragons in the office sometime. So no surprises there. One thing that people might not know is that the glasses that I've got, they're not prescription. They're just for like blue light filtering. Everyone in the performance marketing team wears glasses, so I have to wear glasses, otherwise I won't fit in. But the real truth is that they're just to kind of reduce eye strain, because you spend a lot of time looking at the old screens. So when people see me without my glasses, they're usually surprised. Like, are you wearing contacts? No, I'm just a poser.
They're fakies.
They're fakies.
Just for the look.
They're for the look, and I think they actually do help. If I'm spending long hours in front of the screen, it helps me. I don't know, maybe 10% less tired at the end of the day, wearing something that's kind of blocking out the blue light.
Especially when you're focusing so intensely, it definitely strains the old eyes.
Yeah.
What was your favorite gig before you showed up at Native?
I've done a lot of stuff. I've had a lot of jobs since I was like 16. I think my very first job was selling electronics at Best Buy, which was not my favorite, by the way. One of my favorites was I managed a coffee shop when I was a student at University of Kansas, and to be honest, it was the perfect college job. I wouldn't do it now, but it was the perfect college job because I would get up, open the coffee shop at 5:45 every morning, free coffee, right? Had to test the machine, so lots of time testing and optimizing. Even then, just optimizing the flavor of the coffee every morning, which means I had like 8 shots of espresso to start the day, full of energy. get to see the regulars come in, chat a bit with people, talk about the news, talk about what's going on in their lives, and then, head off to class and then student teaching at the end of the day. It was a great job, great way to start the day, great way to be part of the community. But I also, I was a teacher before I moved into marketing. So I taught at a university in Seoul, South Korea, and I love that as well. Just an opportunity to work with young people who were kind of getting away from home for the first time. I mostly taught freshmen. So kids that were seeing a sort of glimpse into a wider world and being an introduction to not only college, but a foreign language and foreign experiences to them. That was another fun job.
How much Korean did you know and speak fluently before you showed up for that gig?
Oh, zero. Absolutely none. Yeah, that probably a big mistake. A lot of arrogance on my part, assuming that I could just roll up. I learned a couple words, maybe, but I was just butchering the pronunciation. It doesn't take long to learn, though. It's at least the alphabet is probably the easiest foreign alphabet in the world to learn. You can get the basics in an afternoon, and then after that, you just spend your time reading signs and do a little bit of study every day. And it doesn't help or it doesn't hurt to be living in a foreign country where you have no other option. If you need to go to the bank or get in a taxi or go to the supermarket, you've got no choice but to figure it out. So I arrogantly knew zero to start off with, but got up to speed relatively quickly.
So are you doing anything to try to stay fluent?
Sure. My wife is Korean, so that helps a lot. And we watch Korean shows from time to time, so it's good to practice listening. I, of course, talk to my in-laws, send them birthday and holiday messages, and chat with them on the phone from time to time. But it's hard. It's hard to stay fluent when you're not surrounded by it all the time. So I've definitely lost a little bit. But whenever we go back to visit, whenever we can, I think it might mostly come back to me, though. Still nervous, talking to the in-laws in a foreign language.
That's great. So at work, can you put your finger on what drives you? I think you're a pretty driven guy when it comes to work and the way you approach it. Have you thought about what it is that drives you, or it's just kind of the way you're built?
It can be both. It can be the way that I'm built. I did some of my research for my teaching degree in motivation. That was my particular area of interest, and how to develop intrinsic motivation. Just how to find value in what you do. So I think that you can sort of choose to be motivated by the work that you're doing. Like you can find motivation in whatever job that you're doing, and if you don't, you're probably going to enjoy it a lot less than if you can find the things that get you excited and that make it feel like it's worth doing. For me, that's again, my approach to it is sort of like, I want to win. I want to get the high score. I want to do the best that I can, just because it feels good. It feels good to succeed. It feels good to win, right? That is its own motivation. It's not I don't get any percent of however much revenue that we make, right? So I'm just doing it because I want to, because that's kind of what makes me feel like I'm doing good at my job. And if I'm doing a good job, then hey, I must be doing all right in life, right? No one ever wants to feel like they're not good at their job. So if you can do your best and you're satisfied with feeling like you're doing well at your work, then you've got like a big chunk of your life pretty much under control. That's how I look at it anyway.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think you definitely have a very measurable position all day long. You can see if you're up or you're down, right?
Right.
So it cuts both ways, but you don't have to guess too much on where you sit. You're kind of reminded all day long if you're ahead or you're behind.
Absolutely. It's instant feedback, and it's completely unbiased as well. I don't have to wait for my quarterly review or annual review and hope that, I've been nice enough to my boss that I'll get I get instant feedback daily from the work itself telling me, hey, this thing that you did, it's working great. Or, hey, this experiment, not doing it. Maybe try something else. So it's nice. It, like, day by day, I can know, whether I'm going in the right direction or not. And thankfully, most days, things are looking good. So I'm happy.
That's awesome. If you think back to right before you joined Native, what attracted you to Native?
I had heard about it through a friend. So it was a friend who recommended me, who passed on my resume. And just before I said yes to passing on my resume, I wanted to hop on and check out the company. And it's basically, as soon as I got on the site and saw the work and some of the case studies and the things that the team had done before my arrival, I was like, wow, these guys are the real deal. I was with just a couple friends before doing a marketing startup, so we were scrappy and trying our best. We were kind of hoping to grow quickly and become a real company. But then as soon as I saw Native, I was like, oh, this is what I wanted to be. Like, this is what we wanted to be when we grew up. So the idea, and not only that, like, the culture felt like a good fit. As soon as I spoke to you guys on the phone for the first interview, I could tell that, like, you guys were people that I wanted to, even if I didn't get a job, I'd probably get a beer with you guys. So it just felt natural.
Yeah, I think at some point, I think you called us the cool kids, and we just looked around. We're like, is he talking about us or what?
I stick by that.
Okay. All right. Well, it was a nice compliment. I was like,
Yeah,
is he sucking up or does he mean this?
Well, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, right? It was an interview. But I mean, after getting hired, whenever we do the internal reviews about Native or our own self-reviews, it's always asked, like, what do you like about working here? And my answer still, every time since I started, has been the people. Right? I work with a lot of cool people who have great ideas. They're very creative, and, like, they're just great.
Yep. It is the best part. So we turned 5 years old this year. You've been here for one of the 5 years. Is there any particular, this is a bad question to ask because the stories people like to talk about with work are usually the least appropriate stories to be sharing, but is there anything that happened in the past year that you're probably more likely to pass on to your friends or spouse or somebody like that? Any of the stories that stand out?
One that kind of stands out is when we made the videos right after I started. I love that we still use that video on our website to showcase, like, who we are. But that kind of one take video that we did was a great introduction to Native culture. I have no resentment, no beef over the fact that I got to be the straight man in that video. And my job was to not do any of I didn't get to wear the polar bear costume. I didn't get to shoot off any. Actually, no, I did get to shoot off one confetti cannon out of frame. But other than that, my job was to be the serious face. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to make. That, and just general workplace culture. It's a lot of small moments. One of the things that I miss about this kind of situation that we're in now, where we're remote at least half the time, I miss having an office full of people where I miss, like, Matt zipping around in the little Razor scooter and tossing his little, like, mini neon green basketball thing against the wall, and, like, just the ability to take a break from staring at a screen for 15 minutes and just, like, stand up and get involved in a conversation about, old Arby's logos or something like that. It's just fun.
Yeah. It's always the in-between moments, I think, that are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the one take video that we shot, I forgot that you were playing the straight man in that. Yeah, that's probably like, hey, new guy, you do the thing that nobody else wants to do.
I did appreciate that, like, it wasn't, hey, new guy, you do the most embarrassing thing in the video. So
right.
That was nice. It was
Could have
nice.
Been worse.
Yeah, we don't know you well enough to know what you're cool with, so you have to do the boring thing.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to be the straight man, otherwise it's just all ridiculous.
Right, exactly.
If you were to, so again, being here for 1 out of the 5 years, if you were to say, this is why Native has grown steadily, do you have, what would be, if someone asked you, a friend said, hey, it seems like they've grown, what would you say it's attributed to? It's probably a number of things, but what would you say?
Hmm. That's a good question. It definitely is a number of things. There's a lot of factors that go into it. The people, I think, would be one, since I feel like a lot of the, at least in terms of the growth in staff, has been from us choosing people who we've worked with previously and saying, hey, you got to join the team here. We got something good going on. Why don't you hop in? So that's been part of it. But in terms of the growth in our client base, I think the work just kind of speaks for itself. I think that, you know, the case studies that we can put forth, the results that we can show, I think is a pretty cut and dry case from a client perspective of like, oh, these guys actually deliver, they get results, and here are the results, and I can see the results. And my current agency, they're telling me how many clicks and impressions I'm getting, but other than that, I don't know where the money's going. But it seems like these guys have got it all figured out. So in terms of, our external growth, I think it's the fact that we prove that what we do works. And for the internal growth, I think it's just that people want to jump on whenever there's an opportunity. We, bring in folks that we know are good and are going to be a good fit. And by and large, they do seem to be.